what was the thing that got you into tech or got you into engineering and eventually, that type of contributions at that company?
Yeah, I have phenomenal teachers that believed in me, right? I graduated #1 in my class here in San Francisco.
Shout out to them. But listen up, people. Stop playing around, man. listen to this young lady over here.
So I had a lot of people that believed in me and planted the seeds, and I think that's important for young people, especially brown and black children. They need to know that they can do it.
Welcome to Backstage with BobbyD. What up, D Hustle?
What's going on?
Guess where we at, player?
San Francisco.
San Francisco.
Home of the Giants.
Home of the Giants. You seen the stadium, though, right?
I've seen the stadium.
Yeah.
There's a game today, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, for sure. Big shout outs. Who they playing? You said that you saw who they playing.
I think St. Louis.
Yeah, I think it was St. Louis.
Shout out to that team organization over there.
Look at you.
They're pitching. No hitting.
No doubt. So we out here in Salesforce Tower too. We up in the stars, yo. Can you believe it? Yeah.
It's the only way we could do it.
Now I caught a view earlier. You better catch that picture and post it. You gonna put me in it? Tag me in it? The one when you walked in, bro. When you seen the whole view, that very first one.
I already posted it a long time ago, bro.
You see, that's why he's holding it back, because he didn't tag me. Make sure you tag me, bro.
I'll send it to you. You can do
All right, player. But anyways, welcome back, audience. We're back with a great episode here, Backstage with BobbyD, and I got a guest for you all. She goes by MGD.
MG Dizzle.
And Maisha, welcome to the stage, Maisha.
Yes. Welcome home. Welcome to my home.
She giving us a warm welcome.
There are not a lot of people that can say they were born and raised in the Bay, but I was born and raised in San Francisco.
That's what's up. It's by far one of the most beautiful cities I've ever had a chance to live in, visit.
Very organic.
And I tell you, I feel like I'm living in the future, for real. Like, there's so many crazy things going on. And organic tree hugging, look at you.
Farm to table. That's how we farm to table.
Always. But Maisha, first of all, thank you so much for pulling up to the show here. We come to hang out and chat up a little bit. And,
it's my honor.
Definitely. So to kick us off in the conversation, is definitely just tell us a little bit about your starting into tech, and definitely where you're at in your journey now, because I think MIT might be even something she mentioned, like balling like that, you know?
That's related.
Okay. All right, Maisha, what's up?
Spoil it right now.
So I am a strange bird. I'm an HR professional now who started as an engineer. Really felt like there was something missing in HR, and they just needed to do things differently. I still think there's a lot of room to improve HR, and as you see a lot of HR tech and AI coming together, my scientist background has really positioned me to be a superstar. But I started my career, got a PhD in polymer science from Northwestern, making baby diapers. And I remember my grandmother saying, "You went to all that school to play with pee and poo?" And I was like, "Yes, ma'am, I did." So spent 11 years at Procter & Gamble, mostly in the baby care business, making diapers, looking at absorbent materials, had great mentorship, learned a lot at a big company that did internal mobility, did career development well. And they're the ones that made me go do HR work. They were like, "We have a broadening assignment for you." So I remain forever grateful, because I probably would have never done it. You know, when you go get an engineering degree, you're math science heavy. You're like, what am I doing in HR?
Yeah.
But had a great broadening assignment and said if I could ever go back, I would. And so when Microsoft here in the Bay Area called and said, "Do you think you want to come do talent acquisition full time?" I was like, sign me up, put me in, coach.
That's it.
Because I knew that tech needed somebody like me who was not afraid to take chances, who was not risk averse, and who can really help diversify. And I think
say that again for the audience. Not afraid to take chances.
Courageous leadership is a concept that I talk a lot about, but leaders aren't courageous. You know, it's a scary place to be a leader. And so when you think about DEI and like diversifying your team, you know, you take a lot of hits for that, you know, wanting to do the right thing, but it was always the comfortable place for me. So I came to Microsoft. Twitter found me. I was in the same building, so it was so crazy. The day I interviewed at Twitter, I took off of work for Microsoft, and people were like, "You're not supposed to come in this entrance. This is the Twitter entrance."
Yeah. Because security already knew you, right?
Yeah.
They knew what was up.
So I interviewed, and I remember when I got to Twitter, there was one black engineer, one black engineering manager, I should say. And I remember my first week, the Blackbird said, "You need to fix this. We brought you here. Like, you got work, ma'am." And so when I look at where Twitter was when I left, it was amazing. Oh, the Blackbirds, and I still hear the compliments to that employee resource group. And then fast forward, I'm at Eventbrite, came to help rebuild their team, right? You know, you think about the pandemic, there were no events, the world shut down, laid off 60% of the workforce. And so need to get new and fresh talent there.
Yeah, but give Maisha a big round of applause.
Shout out to all those organizations that she mentioned.
She mentioned some big names on the top of the list.
Big names, especially her name.
And you know, the funny thing is that, as Maisha mentioned, Microsoft is in the same building, right? And I remember I used to see Microsoft people all the time, and I'm like, oh. And then Maisha says, I went from this floor just up to the next floor and interview, and that's what's up. Oh, congratulations on that journey, because first of all, being a woman in tech, being a person of color, you stepped into a position that I feel like a lot of people don't understand how it feels to be who you are, and then the weight that carries with you. And I will say, when I first met you on Twitter, I was so grateful that I seen you, and I was like, where's she sitting in the chart? Right, that's where she's. Oh, we about to kill it. We about to get it, because I knew at that moment in time it was the perfect opportunity for us to really embrace the challenges we had at Twitter with diversity and inclusion. And hearing you say, when I got there, I met the first Black-only engineering manager, RIP Thaddeus. Yeah, we talked about him yesterday too. And definitely wanted to say, I appreciate you. I don't know if I've ever told you this face-to-face, but as an employee that was there for a minute before you got there, it was probably one of the brightest days of my life when I seen that in that organization, recruiting, pipeline, we had somebody that played on our team type stuff. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. So I do appreciate you, and I want to make sure you hear it. And give her some roses.
I'm going to take all my flowers, roses, daffodils, give them all to me. Give them all to me.
Thank you so much for that, and definitely always interested in chopping it up. But we're going to step back a little bit in your career journey, because you mentioned PG&E, being an engineer yourself.
I mentioned P&G. PG&E is here. That's how.
You give me a womp womp. You know Bobby sometimes.
Yeah, I was preparing for you.
P&G. But tell us about that in terms of what was the thing that got you into tech or got you into engineering and eventually, that type of contributions at that company?
Yeah, I have phenomenal teachers that believed in me. Right, I graduated #1 in my class here in San Francisco.
But listen up, people. Stop playing around, man. listen to this young lady over here.
So I had a lot of people that believed in me and planted the seeds, and I think that's important for young people, especially brown and Black children. They need to know that they can do it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't easy, but people were pushing me, saying, you got this. And so I was the first person here in the Bay Area in San Francisco to go to MIT from my high school and to win the Coca-Cola National Scholarship. So there was a lot of folks telling me I could do it. Now, I'm not saying MIT was easy.
Yeah.
I had to go there and figure out what I wanted to do with my life. I thought I was going to be pre-med until I fainted at the sight of my own blood. I might need a new career aspiration.
She's like, yo, I see that. I was like, we about to change the game.
I'm with you, too. I'm with you.
It's too much. And so I had a wonderful professor in my first year at MIT that helped me figure out I could do material science and engineering. I want to do it. I want to know what things are made of. And I think it really goes back to the curiosity.
Yeah.
I think when we stifle and tell our children, don't ask why. I have very supportive parents who let me ask why, and a supportive community. I know people see how beautiful San Francisco is.
Yeah.
I grew up in the inner city here, and people are like, yeah, right. But I grew up in the inner city. My cousin was the shot caller in the neighborhood, so I couldn't get in trouble if I wanted to.
My God.
My father worked at the community center. Everybody knew who I was. And so even when I, took a detour home from school, people would treat me like a pinball machine and say, aren't you supposed to be here or there?
Yeah.
And that's when neighborhoods and communities and took care of folks. So I couldn't get in trouble if I wanted to.
Yeah,
that's feeling.
Yeah, that's something that I've always appreciated, especially when you take, those that live in a city life and understand what it means to live in a city and have a community around you. Like, D. Hustle, you from East New York, right? You've had that community feeling, right?
Yeah, I relate to everything she's saying.
Yeah.
I go outside. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Did the mom and dad know you outside?
Yeah.
Like, What? I'm just going to the store.
That part. Everybody, and they still, even with my children, we go to AAU tournaments. They still call me Little Larry. My father's Larry Gray.
Yeah.
People know me, and my son is just like, can we go anywhere? I said, they know your grandfather. That's what happens when you put in time and give back. People know.
Exactly. And a big round of applause to your pops, that type of contribution, because running and managing a community center as such, I know when I was a young kid, I needed that outlet. I needed to get outside, run around, have my peers in my neighborhood. And I tell you, we didn't have a community center manager, but we definitely had that community spot where older people looked over us and gave us guidance. So big shout outs out to them for sure, 100%. And they called you who? Little Larry?
Little Larry. Still, still to this day.
That's what's up. That's what's up. So you went out to MIT and you developed some new skills around, engineering and product development. But how did that transition from that into tech?
I will tell you, I just got back from Boston, which is my least favorite city. So I'm sorry for all of you who love Boston. It's hard to
Shout out to everything she's saying.
It's hard to be black and brown in Boston, and so I have to have a full agenda when I'm there. But I went back for my 25-year reunion about 2-3 weeks ago.
Congratulations! Round of applause for her.
I knew I was going to be back 25 years after I graduated. It was important.
Yeah.
But I think what I realized when I was there is the network. Some of what MIT gave me was the technical skills, polish those up, but it was the network. I think about the people that I went to school with. I think about Sal Khan from Khan Academy was in my graduating class. I think about the founder of Coda. I just sent Shashir an email, Metro, and they were like, these people. I'm like, we went to school together. So as much as I think about the work, so much of the networking and the network was important in learning how to work network that has come to help me as I think about transitioning into tech. So many of these folks, when you think about degrees of separation, these tech companies were built by friends, sitting in a coffee shop, friends that have some small number of degrees of separation. And so I think MIT prepared me greatly for that.
That's what's up. Congratulations on that. And I tell my mentees all this all the time. We heard this on the street. It's not your network. It's your network that creates your net worth, right? It's like the people that you're connected to will eventually open up those opportunities for you to level up. And shoot, I got Maisha in my network, so I'm good. I'm good from here going forward. Awesome. So in terms of so you said Microsoft was one of the first tech spots that you transitioned from P&G. How was it at Microsoft? How did that journey go?
It was different. We were the only site outside of home. Home base for Microsoft, they run Redmond, Seattle. You think about Amazon, Microsoft, and Bill Gates built those exits. They have buses. They have that campus feel. And imagine being here, 3,000 folks here in the Bay Area. We're all acquisitions. So most of the companies that Microsoft has in the Bay Area were an agglomeration of acquisitions trying to become Microsoft. So it was definitely a lot of culture work, which is where I really kind of became an HR person because you're trying to integrate all of these acquisitions, 2-person, 5-person, 12-person, into the Microsoft way. So it's not just the talent acquisition and teaching them how to hire. It really is the culture work, which I fell in love with.
That's what's up. Yeah, I think that culture work is something that I think a lot of people don't realize how impactful it is, especially from an engineering perspective. Like, once I felt like I belong, oh my gosh, I was able to develop and create the moon and stars mindset-wise and dream and not be worried about, someone, having an opinion about me based on who I was physically outside, right? It was like, hey, mentally, like, BobbyD, what can you really come up with? And I tell you, as soon as I embraced that, it was like skies wasn't the limits for me. It was like, if I got my squad with me and they all supported me and they understand what I bring in terms of contributions, we can go and create some really cool stuff. And I think outside, after working at Twitter, a lot of people can really realize some of the stuff that we've done. But not talking about me, but talking about your journey transitioning from Microsoft to Twitter. What was that in terms of the culture differences? And also definitely want to chop it up a little bit more about Blackbirds and how that impacted you.
Twitter was a different place, smaller. When I got there, 3,500 people. Microsoft was 120,000 people. Microsoft knew they were the grandfather of tech at about 45 years old. They were old. You asked anybody, they were old. The products I supported weren't sexy, right? I had PowerPoint, I had Outlook. You know, I was dealing with candidates that had grown up with email. Like, they were like, "What's so special about email?" And Twitter had a sexiness about it. The bird, what the app was. I actually think the pandemic helped Twitter exponentially, right? You think about we're all locked in our houses. We have nothing to do but tweet, right? And even for me, someone who didn't tweet heavily before I started at Twitter, I just loved the instantaneous communication and finding out what was happening in the world. It really became my news source. And I'd be like, is it on Twitter? And I think about all the things that we learned on Twitter before your news outlets, paper or really the media, the TV, could tell you that this happened. Yeah. Did Twitter say it? Did Twitter verify that? Is it Twitter verified? Yeah. Bigger than a blue check, right? Is it viral? Then you know it happened. And so with you being and a company being at the center like that, there's a culture, there's a coolness, there's a happening. I mean, you think about the buildings. You know, everyone had their own flavor. You know, they took free food to a different place, you know, because that was table stakes.
Like 31 flavors of basketball. She's talking to me right
now. It was. They took, you know, free food, the culture. We had DJs at lunch. It was like, this is not how people come to work. It's like you got spaces to just be you, do you. It was cool. They made working in tech cool. Yeah. For sure.
For sure. And I tell you, I remember my first time going into the cafeteria and then seen that DJ booth in the corner over there. And I was like, man, I guess they may just have that for an event. And then every day an employee would sign up on the list and say, hey, I'm going to put my playlist on there and they're going to go over there, scratch a little bit, kill it. I mean, you would have killed it. I know you would have had it killed it, right? But it just gave you that vibe and feeling like, man, I feel like, yo, this is the stoop, this is the hood, this is my home. This is like, I don't even know if I want to leave because food is great. They got showers, they got gyms, they got sleep rooms, they got everything you need to not even have to leave. And like you said, it made it cool to be a part of that team and that organization over there.
Sure, I feel like signing up an application right now.
Well, that's a lie. That's a lie.
Just to get the experience.
That was Twitter 1.0. I can't tell you what's happening over there today, but Twitter 1.0. Twitter 1.0 was.
Just scratch what I just said.
For sure. Actually, I brought D out there. You came out of San Francisco. And he was the one with the camera walking around like this.
I was I took videos and the whole nine. I was making sure I got everything out.
For sure.
It was a good experience because in Florida, I never had that opportunity. It's just a little cubicle. Call it a day. You have your 2 15-minute lunch. 30-minute lunch. And then boom, you come right back and go right back to I-95, go home.
Yeah. And that's
was
the
only
thing that changed.
Sightseeing I had was on I-95.
I-95 is our highway. It's like
I'm familiar. I'm familiar. You know the other piece I loved about Twitter. I felt like I got to meet all the superstars. I remember when Regina King was using the platform for something. They brought her in. Nice. Just the connections that they made with like Twitter voices who were like superstars. That was like I feel like I made it that day when I was like, oh, I'm here with Brenda. I'm here with, she is everything.
Facts.
Yes, I'm here.
Sure. It's always so great when you're associated, and not even associated, but you're pouring into the cup in terms of your contributions to an organization like that, and then you get to see the impact that it has. Because for me, VITs are very important tweets. Were like always the thing for me. Like, who's pulling up to the office? Oh, where are they gonna be at? Oh, I'm definitely there. And you hear how much they enjoyed the product, too, because it wasn't like, hey, they're just here for the camera shot, but they're here to maybe even tell us, hey, you need to add this feature, or you need to take this away, or can y'all do this better type stuff. So as an engineer, it was always good to, get some feedback that way. But yeah, it was definitely once in a lifetime, D, and I'm appreciative that you got a chance to experience it just a little bit. But yeah, I'll hold it down almost 9 years. And I started back in 2013. And one thing that was always the biggest challenge for me is not seeing enough people that look like me, especially on the engineering side of the house. And that was something that I think once you got on board, you were really able to influence that. So tell us a little bit about in terms of like some of your main endeavors working at Twitter.
I think the support from the top is important. I think I tell candidates when you are looking for a job, you're interviewing them and they're interviewing you. And so I met with your VP of engineering, head of engineering, Mike Montano.
Mike Montano.
He was very instrumental in saying, this is what I want. And before they would give me an offer, he was like, you got to go to Nesby in Detroit. I was like, say less. I was like, that's what it's going to take for me to get an offer, is to go to the cookout, the engineering cookout in Detroit. I was like, oh, say less. And so I remember getting there. I remember seeing you, Bobby, with the green background, just working the booth with students. He saw a lot of my friends come and visit, and he was like, oh, you already, I know, we're going to do it. So, and so I think having that support of a leader say, this is what I want, and mean it, and visibly show up. Like I didn't feel like I ever had to drag him to go there. I think even Jack, who was like, I want to be the only CEO at Nesby and at SWE and at SHIP, all these he wanted to be that person at Grace Hopper. It made it easy. So it was like, just go do what you do, MGD. And I think the secret sauce, and I tell people who are looking to hire diverse talent, brown and black folks are very relationship oriented. They got to trust you. Yeah. They have to trust you, and they can read through lip service. They can see what's fake. They know what's not authentic. And so they knew that we were really our authentic selves, right? They knew it. They knew 100%. It. So if you're looking as a company to get more of us, you have to, and it had to start at the top. Yeah. So when I said you have one black engineering manager, we got to do better. And so we started, you saw Nick Caldwell, Brian Black. It was like, we have Jasmine Jones. It was like, people were like, where are you getting them all from? No, they're there. We don't have a pipeline issue. We just have to make sure that we support and grow and develop. So, shout out to leadership for support.
100% shout out to that. And man, you dropped some gems there, because the idea of, especially being an employee, I've always never wanted to cross that table into management. I'm an ant worker, and I like the keyboard too much, and I just could not get away from that. And I didn't want to be a micromanager. I'm shooting for principal. I want to be able to understand how this whole system works, type stuff. And it always left a gap in terms of the management side of the house. And hearing you, getting those initial feelings of like, hey, we want to do this, and you're like, oh, I'm on board. And then they tell you, oh, before you even say we're going to send you off to Nesby, that's like, where are you going to send me, to Nesby? And then you get to see the IC side of the house, how driven, how ambitious we are, how eager we are to showcase what we create in terms of culture and the computing system and the services that we offer. And then you're like, oh, yeah, we can definitely level this up. So I already said this earlier, but let's give Maisha a round of applause for sure, because you mentioned some names there, like Nick Caldwell, Mr. Blackson. Like, those are VPs that when I seen their names pop up in the org chart, I promise you, tears, because they're VPs. They're not entry-level, first-level. No, they're sitting at the right table that they can make the impact. And I don't know. At first, I was like, how in the world this happened? Now I know.
And wanted to make the impact, because one of the first things Nick came in and said was, my first meeting with him, Dev Color was there. He was on the Dev Color board. Yeah. He was like, I want you to figure out how we make this work for Twitter. And he was like, that's what we're going to do. So he opened up and was lifting as he climbed and said, this is important to me. So I want you to make sure you connect with Dev Color, connect me with other organizations, use me. You can always get on my calendar and told his admin. Yeah. Sometimes we put people in these leadership roles and they're just there. Yeah. Nick was bad about it. He was about that life. He knew what he wanted. And in every space that he played, he was about diversifying it. So he was my guy.
Yeah. So, well, big shout out to Nick Caldwell. we trying to pull up on you in New York. I already sent you the message, right?
Come through, Nick Caldwell. Don't make me use all the other connections we have to get you in the podcast.
But yeah, we're going to be pulling up on him in New York if the stars lined up well. But in general, it is an engineer. When they said the head of engineer was Nick Caldwell, I don't know how to express the enjoyment that I had, especially the tables that I was sitting at. So I was a lead engineer going up the ladder, sitting at these bigger tables. But now, one of my things that I always have a challenge is, who do I look up to, or who do I have to push ideas to? And when that name came up there and I clicked that button and I double tapped that, I was like, oh, that's what I'm talking about. Because just as an employee, this is the other side of it that I think a lot of people don't realize the value of D&I is that as an employee, that right there just gave me even more chip, more like my posture straight. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to finally make the impact that I know I can, because I know I got somebody that got my back, right?
I talk a lot about windows and mirrors. And I even talk about it in the concept with my kids. Do you see yourself? When you look out in a mirror, you see yourself, right? Whether that be up, down, left, right, you want to see yourself, whether it's your peers, whether it's leadership, whether it's people that are going to work for you.
Yeah.
Everything can't be a window. I just can't look out and say, oh, that person that looks like me is over there, because it doesn't feel attainable, right? So we talk a lot about windows and mirrors, and we needed to have mirrors inside our organization for the betterment of folks.
Yeah, give a round of applause. And throw in the gym there too. So those that watch YouTube know this is the spot to come listen in, because that's definitely some value there. One other thing that I think we briefly talked about, and definitely been mentioning Blackbirds, but tell me a little bit about that ERG and kind of like when you first pulled up, you got into Twitter, you seen, NSBE, leadership is there. Now you have an employee resource group that definitely could, be resources to level up. But how did that all play out for you?
I think week 1, y'all sat me down. Let's not act like. At week 1, you all had the numbers and the data, and reminded me a lot of my time at Procter & Gamble. We spent a lot of time understanding the numbers. What were we recruiting? What were we retaining? Who was being advanced? So our ERG spent a lot of time. So it was actually heartwarming that the Blackbirds rolled up on me and was like, we need you to be at this meeting, sit on down, let us tell you what we want, and then trusted to let me go do it. And I said, just give me some time. I got to make some moves within my organization, because I think the first thing, and I say this unapologetically, HR is too white. I've never seen a function that is supposed to represent all the people, and it is predominantly run by white women. And so I had to switch my team up to get them to understand that diversity was everybody's job. When I got to Twitter, they had 2 people working on diversity recruiting. I'm like, 2? It's everybody's job. Everybody's job to be inclusive, to think about how we make every candidate see themselves here, that we understand what it's like to be a diverse person or a marginalized person. I know you mentioned me on the intersection of being a Black woman, but I also am a person with a disability. I've had 2 cornea transplants, was legally blind. So I always talk about being a triple minority and wanting to make sure that those who have disabilities can come and bring their best self. And remote work really helped them do that. Once you don't have to leave your house, you can set it up how comfortably you need it. So I think that was really a game changer in the future of work for people with disabilities or invisible or differently abled, however you'd like to call it. But I wanted to make sure that all the people had all the things. And so one of the things I loved about the Blackbirds was the accountability. You all were tough. You held everyone accountable for everything and making sure that your voices were heard. And again, your ERG leaders supported you. I think sometimes people feel like as leaders, I don't have that shared lived experience. But that doesn't mean you can't be supportive. For sure. And Mike was super supportive. And I remember when Dantley came and Nick came, everybody wanted to be the advisor. They were like, you had an advisor, but then you had all the sub-advisors. Just everybody really wanted to who had that lived experience. And so you all were tough. You knew how to have a good time. I think about the versus battles. I just think about how you were connected to the culture. And a lot of ERGs aren't. They lose who they are. They try to fit in and assimilate to what they think they're supposed to do. Not you all. Because I remember when y'all gave out Afro picks and do-rags and bonnets. And I was like, every ERG ain't giving out bonnets. Sweet Jesus, they not giving out the bonnets.
For sure, no doubt. Actually, that reminds me of something.
What I would do without my baby.
Yeah, I remember we were hosting something for Afrotech at the office. And the Blackbirds was, kind of leading the whole conversation, bringing some, Black employees, including engineers, up on stage. And me, BobbyD, they said, Bobby, can you, go say a few words? And I was like, just a few? All right, just make sure you got an extra space for me at the end, because I got more than just a few words. But the other thing is I was walking around with my Haitian flag hooked to my belt loop. And let me tell you, first of all, other people seeing that, me wearing a Twitter shirt, Haitian flag, how many people came up to me to be like, oh, I'm Haitian, or oh my gosh, you're from the Caribbean, or man, this is how it is here. I was like, yeah, this is how it is. Stick around because I got something for you. And I got a chance to get up on stage, talk a little bit about my journey, and then they asked me a question: what does Lift As We Climb mean to me? That was the theme that y'all came up with in terms of, you know, what Twitter was standing on. And, you know, me, you know, a little bit of poetry, a little bit of bars and stuff like that. So I go up there and literally a drop the mic moment. And I remember watching a video where Maisha was, I guess somebody caught you and you said, I said something like, oh, do y'all want me to do a poem? And you look back at the camera, look at somebody, and like it was about to be on. Like it was like, oh, y'all just don't know what's about to go down. And I promise you, literally, it was probably one of my best moments at Twitter because I got to have one of those real authentic moments, unexpected by everybody. You know, I got a round of applause and everything, you know me, but in general, the key thing is that I wanted to make that little impact. And you don't know how many people I run into. I went to Afro Tech. It's like, were you at that Twitter? Wasn't that you at the Twitter event? Like
2019, Afro Tech was memorable. Even the party at the complex went down. They wouldn't let in just anybody in. My councilman got stopped at the door. He thought he was going to roll in last minute. He's like, I'm the councilman of District 6. They were like, the end of the line is over there. We going to help the Councilman Taylor. I got you, boo.
Yeah, for sure.
I got you. But it was legendary.
Oh, my gosh. That was such a great time, 2019. It was memorable. And for me, and I'll tell you the reason why when I did that, Maisha, why it felt so comfortable for me. Because by 2019, I was there at Twitter about 7 years already. And one of the things that we used to do in the office when I first got there is tea time. But we used to do it kind of different, where it was like people would literally get up on stage and really just showcase their skill set, hosting events and stuff like that. So I've hosted stuff like that. And I never seen you all see me do stuff like that in front of everybody. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to take it to the next level like we used to do way, way back in the days at Twitter. And it was just so that y'all can really just get that like, oh, it's really like this? Yeah, it's really like this.
I know it is because that's where I got my Hennessy margarita recipe from Why You Tripping from the Blackbirds at Twitter.
That's what's up. That's what's up. Oh, my gosh. That was such an awesome time. And our last guest we had yesterday, Meryl. I'm not sure if you remember Meryl, but Meryl was like just reminding me of how much enjoying that culture experience changed her life in terms of engineering. And I'm about to make a connection to something else because she was like, yo, can I still get one of them Stay Woke shirts? And I was like, Meryl, you know you can't get one of them shirts, but I'm going to talk to Maisha, though, because Maisha got a story around that.
I do have a story. When Elon was over there trashing that closet with all the Stay Woke and all the other Blackbirds paraphernalia, that was my closet. I had bought all of that because I'm like, oh, we can just get ahead. We have all these events coming up. Nesby's in March.
Yeah.
Then the pandemic hit like end of February, early March. That was my closet. And people were calling me like, MGD, is that your closet? I said, it damn sure is. He done lost his mind. Like, I was so hurt. But I feel so empowered to see my kids in their Stay Woke shirts because we still have some.
Yeah.
The You Belong in Tech shirts my kids still rock. And P&G had My Black is Beautiful. So I feel like I'm raising these little empowered soldiers because of these mantras we stood on. But I have a box. Now you tell me. I might have some Stay Woke, some You Belong in Tech, some Atlanta, I Love Pick a City shirt. Those were I can't believe him.
I know. When I saw it, I promise
so he threw them out?
Yeah. Yeah,
it was an awful tweet. It was so awful.
Yeah.
He couldn't believe we had him, and he made so much fun of it. It was just off color, but it was my closet. Yeah, it was all the stuff I had bought to get ahead of stuff we were going to do for Blackbirds.
Facts. And first of all, those mantras y'all were dropping, oh my gosh, they're engraved in my journey that I've had because I still rock those shirts. And actually, I don't wear them as much because they're throwbacks, so I don't want to mess them up. But I promise you, Maisha, those type of statements that your organization stood on and you brought us along because you knew the impact that it would have for students to see that and then have Meryl come here and asking me like, yo, can you still get me the plug type stuff? Hands down, those cultural things that you've done, we've already seen the results.
But I don't want to take all the credit for that.
Yeah.
This had started before I got there. They just really needed a firecracker. And, I think, and my friends call me gasoline, I'm going to turn it up. And so I just put a little more fire on it to accelerate the progress we needed to make. And I think about how we blew our 2025 diversity goals out in 18 months. It was like, those goals are nothing. We got this. And so I just think about what we did, but it wasn't me. We had an army of folks. We were changing hearts and minds because that's really, other people did a lot of the work.
Yeah.
And I just got to have fun with them.
Well, I appreciate you. I don't know how much more I got to say it. One other thing that I want to get some opinion about. So some of our audience are newer, individuals looking to get into tech, and we're definitely servicing the underrepresented group. We also have a lot of viewers that are been around the block a few times, and they loving us being able to bring y'all to light and bring my journey to light. But in terms of those that are getting into tech, and definitely the climate that we're in right now, what advice would you have for them in terms of pursuing the opportunities that they're really looking for?
I've been telling folks that tech is high risk, high reward, and it's not the only place that you can do software development. And so getting past what is my end goal? Is it really to be in tech? Do I really need the Google name? Do I really need the name? Or do I want the experience? And do I want to build my skill set? Because those are two different things.
Yeah.
Because you can build your skill set in software development, in site reliability engineering, and you don't have to be at one of those big name tech companies. You can be at a big name other company and still get those skills. And I think that's what I push people to ask themselves. Do you need the name? Yeah. And I say this, and people say, well, it's easy for you to say that, MGD. You've been at Procter & Gamble, Clorox, Microsoft, Twitter, and Eventbrite. So I have been at some names, but I also do a lot of stuff with startups, companies you never even heard of, right? Because that's me knowing that some of the problems that I get at these big companies were because at one time they were small companies and didn't think about the people, the culture, the inclusion, the employee experience pieces early enough in their journey to become bigger. Yeah. And so, I ask people that. I will say for early career folks, it's hard out there right now.
Yeah.
But I think that group is something that we weren't. I feel like my parents indoctrinated that you had to go to school, you had to get a degree, you had to get a job. And I look at these folks doing stuff we never, like a gap year. A gap year? You're going to take a gap year and go do what? You getting a job? You pay, saving money to pay for school? No, I'm going backpacking around whatever. My parents just would never have understood that. And so while tech is high risk, high reward, I also think that, our Gen Zers are so adventurous and that they have different paths and they're okay with that. And there's not the kind of one size fits all that this is the path.
Yeah.
They're picking their path. They're choosing the way, and they're doing it their way. Very much doing it their way. So one I'll say is continue to do that, because when I look at the number of startups, you see a lot more of those folks leaning into that. Like, nah, I'm good. I don't want to work for folks. And I tell companies that's why we're going to have a gap. You're not going to have future leaders if you don't treat these Gen Zers better, right? If you are so restrictive and haven't thought about how to evolve, we're going to have a gap. You're not going to have a future leader, and your retirement plan ain't good.
Because they definitely depended on them to create the plan for them.
Yes, and they're innovative, and if they can go get that venture capital money, why are they going to work for you? So I do think you see an entrepreneurial spirit in Gen Zers that you just don't see in others. I think about, this is probably not the best example, but I was with a group chaperoning, and they were talking about their businesses. Or when I read scholarship applications, like I sometimes will read for the Coca-Cola scholarship and others. My kids don't like when I do it because I come home and I'm like, do you have a job? Where's your business plan? You don't even have a lemonade stand. Because these kids are like, they got a business. They got a nonprofit they started. I'm like, what are you doing with your life? And so they're like, no more reading scholarship applications, because I always think about, would I have gotten into MIT? Would I have gotten this scholarship 30 years ago? Because, the game has changed.
For sure.
Very much entrepreneurial. And so I think that's what I encourage these folks to do, that. Follow what is their passion.
Yeah. Oh, she dropping them gems. MGD always coming with them bars. Y'all better be listening. And let me tell y'all, there's a button on the side there. It's called rewind. You put that button and go back, and then you get back to where we was at in the conversation. So big shout outs to you. I really do appreciate the feedback. Now, we're not done with the show yet, but there's an opportunity for you to ask any questions that you ever want to ask BobbyD. Definitely looking for D. What are you doing, D? You get in position?
Preparing the questions.
No, but more or less, definitely want to give you a space if there's any questions that you want to throw out there. This is your chance to interview me. Don't you know that's in the interview process? What would you like, or is there anything else you want to know?
I got to think about when I got you in your career journey, when I met you, when our paths intersected. You were definitely in that space where you were you. Right, yeah. You were BobbyD. You were bringing your authentic self. Were you always that person? And what did it take for you to feel comfortable being who you are?
For sure. That's a great question, because I think a lot of people, when they catch me in that part of the journey, it was like, oh, you was like this all the time. But to tell you the truth, Maisha, it wasn't until I got to Twitter, until I got that sauce with the culture. Because one thing that happened in 2013 when I got hired is by that time, I was already in the industry about 10 to 12 years already, down in South Florida. And when they flew me out to interview, I was ready. I was, computing at a very high level. But that also meant that I was one of those with the blinders on, right? My first 2 years at Twitter, I didn't even know about Blackbirds. My first 2 years was like this, because the group itself wasn't really reestablished or what it was when you got there. And the thing that just opened me up was I had a manager that he was one of those that always wore like not a suit, but really nice dress, tie, briefcase every day. Working at Twitter, I mean, people were coming in with slacks, shorts, kilts, sandals, and he dressed up every day. And one day, him and I were having a one-on-one, and I was like, yo, but why you dress up every day? I mean, he came in one day with some nice coat, like a pea coat on. I was like, dang, you're looking clean. He was like, that's the thing. Like, just because they can do that, that doesn't mean that I can't do what I enjoy doing, which is dressing up and being clean-cut gentleman, right? And I'm like in my mind, and he was like, yo, just be BobbyD. Just be BobbyD and watch how much more people embrace you rather than still, holding back. And I tell you, I started to wear my Miami Heat hat. I got a peachy. Start rocking my Miami Heat hat, wearing my Jordans.
Do we have a Knicks fan here? Are you a Knicks fan?
Shout out to the Knicks fan.
Wait, you can't be shouting out the Knicks in Warrior Country. What's the button? I need a button that's wong, 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 wong. This Warriors Country, you tripping.
Shout out to the Knicks again.
You tripping, D. Where are you?
That's the hustle for you, right? So I'm over there rocking, and that's the time the Heat were up. LeBron was on the squad, right? We was killing it. So for me, I just started to be more myself, even at work. On Fridays, I used to be afraid for my headphones to accidentally come off and the music plays. One day it happened. My guy was like, yo, turn that up. I was like, all right, you want to listen to this Biggie? All right. Every Friday, people expected me to turn the music up. And I was like, man, this is the vibe. This is what I should be feeling like. And before you know it, 4 years afterwards.
I got a question for you.
What's up?
So you're able to put the music on with the curse words?
Yes, for sure. Sure.
Yeah. Shout out to that.
Yeah.
I thought it had to be.
No, not at Twitter.
It was wild. It was wild.
Talk about the unexpected version.
Facts. And the cool thing is that by the time y'all got to Twitter, I was already primed. I was like 3 years in, and they said BobbyD. I was like, oh my gosh. And I was at a very high level of engineering. So it was like, yo, I kind of was myself, still maintain that high level engineering. And also, like, I started to change the culture around me in terms of who wanted to work with me, because now everybody wants to work with me because they figured out he's actually really cool, not just a really smart black dude type stuff, right?
You did a couple other things, and I think you're being modest. One, as a talent acquisition leader, you didn't have a traditional path. You don't have a degree, right? And so a lot of people think you have to have a degree to be in tech. And I know growing up black and brown, we teach and preach education. And so when I got there, I was like, okay, we really do need to talk about skills, because here you have a high-level, high-performing engineer that doesn't have a degree. So I don't know what we're teaching in those computer science programs, but that learned experience, that on-the-job training prepared you. So that was one of the BobbyD-isms that, I brought to my HR work. And the second one was you were remote. And so to still be able to deliver at a high level and not be sitting necessarily next to your boss or next to your team, you would fly in like monthly, I think.
Yeah.
But you still were able to be seen and be visible. And I think that was another thing I remember, because part of what they brought me in was to think about how we built strong distributed teams.
Yeah.
And you were already distributed. So your team was one of those that we used as a model, because you have this diverse cat living in Miami on a different time
you know
zone.
What I'm saying? On the boat, probably. I was probably on the yacht that day. No, I'm just messing. But that is so true. Like, because low key, I didn't know that was going on in the background. The thing that used to happen was my manager used to come and ask me, like, yo, so tell me how things are going. And then he was like, yo, can you like give us an idea of like why is this working so well, what you're doing, right? And so I was just giving the game like, hey, this is what I'm doing. Let's make myself available. I even had at my desk area a TV, a monitor that logged in, and I logged in from my office at home, so people could see me at the office like I was at the office, right? And as soon as I started to pitch these things, I'm so grateful that was in place, because COVID came in afterwards and it was like, yo, how do we play this? And then my manager's like, yo, I got the playbook type stuff. And it definitely gave us a chance as an organization to understand the value around it, because I didn't have to move to San Francisco, or I didn't have to be in that building to still make those type of contributions. So you see, you never know who's watching.
I'm watching. I'm watching.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, MGD. Any other questions?
Are you ever going to go back to traditional, or do you love this non-traditional, being on your own? Tell me.
I tell you, I do miss the keyboard. I'm not going to front, because I am a technologist, and I really do miss the techie part. The thing that I think, and I was talking to a mentee of mine the other day, is that I'm waiting for the industry to catch up where I was at. Because the industry, in terms of what we built at Twitter, was so far ahead where the industry's at. It's making progress, and eventually we'll get there in terms of the technical aspects of it. But I will definitely get back at it. I'm enjoying my time hanging out with D Hustle, traveling the country, right? Meeting some really great people, having some good conversations. I think an idea of, building my own and working on that. So keeping out for that. Maisha, I'm trying to holler some VCs and stuff like that. You never know.
And you know who can do all your people stuff, because I think a lot of these startups don't think about the people dynamic.
Facts.
They just think about the product.
Yeah.
If I have a good enough product, we get that out. That's what matters. People pay for it, but the company crumbles because people make that product.
Facts, 100%. Thanks for reminding the audience, right? But I'm going to get back at it. I really am, because I think in terms of just the trajectory that I'm heading in terms of the technical aspect, I didn't get there at Twitter. Twitter was just a peak, but when you get over that one mountain, you see another one just as tall, right, or even taller. That I'm definitely willing to make those type of contributions. So keep going out, man. Maisha might be helping me find some people. We're gonna make it work. D Hustle, we gonna make it work. Well, Maisha, thank you so much for coming in, having a great conversation with us. How did you enjoy your conversation?
My pleasure. I'm just honored that you thought about me when you came to my home. This is my town. If you had snuck in my backyard and didn't say hello, I would be talking about you. I'd be slow dragging you. Like, I know he didn't come to my town. And not even at least tell me he was coming. I had to hear all these wonderful podcasts. But just, thank you for thinking of me. I love sharing where I can, lifting as I climb, which is important now more than ever.
Yeah, for sure. Well, give Maisha a round of applause, D Hustle. Anything, D Hustle, you got anything to throw on?
I got a question for Maisha.
What's up?
I was working with Bobby. I wasn't.
I worked for them. Bobby would do anything I asked. And that's what when you have support, I could ask them, can you go to this conference? Can you speak to this group of students? No matter how big or how small, they would always, and Bobby would always step up. And we would have him in the front line. Every program for high school students, college students, he'd say, put me in, coach. And that's what you need as a DEI leader. Nice. Put me in, coach.
Nice. And we didn't pay Maisha for this. So just want to give everybody a heads up about that.
Thanks. Just the last time our guest, you always try to slide something on the table.
I was want to make sure she was telling the truth.
Yeah, I feel you, though. All right, D Hustle. As always, thank you so much for your contributions, Maisha. The show could not be the show, us coming on the streets without stopping by to say what's up with you. So we really appreciate it. Turn it up a little bit more, D. Let me close it out real quick. I hope y'all enjoyed this conversation. MGD came through, and let me tell you, that rewind button, get familiar with it because she's dropping gems. Woo! We pulling up throughout the country. You'll see us in different cities. Definitely hollering at some of our old peers, and definitely want to say thank y'all so much for tuning in to Backstage with Bobby D. Holla at your boy. It's Bobby D.